Hi, and welcome to the show. Today I have with me an extraordinary individual. I'm not going to try to describe him in the intro because it would just take too long. You're going to want to meet him right away, and we'll just get started. I'm going to ask a lot of questions to try to unfold the depth and breadth of Steve Rogers, the priest at the Episcopal St Barnabas Church. And Steve, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
You know, a good friend of mine, Pat Johnson, said, hey, you should have Steve Rogers on your show. He is amazing. And I said, oh, you mean that guy that comes to chamber and says, hi, I'm from the soup kitchen, and then you don't really hear much from him? He goes, yeah, he's an author and a psychotherapist, and he's been a principal of schools, and he goes around to Episcopal churches and helps them get through difficult times. This guy is. And so I want you on my show. So you're such an asset to this community, and I want people to know about.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Tell us how you came to town.
I came to town because St Barnabas Church was having some issues a few years ago. I've been here 2.5 years. And so they were sort of looking for somebody to fill in and help them out. And that's sort of what I do for a living, is I help people as a psychotherapist, help schools as an educator, and help churches. My norm is to go in for somewhere between 2 and 3 or 4 years and try and help them heal themselves and to get a sense of vision for where they want to go.
And there's an expiration date on you in town here. I mean, you have an exit plan.
It's coming up. Actually, next month it's coming up.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry.
We should have done this a year ago.
I know. How long have you been in town?
It'd be 2.5 years in June, so January 2 years ago.
Okay. So, I belong to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in McMinnville, and I'm just going to generalize and say whenever a group of humans get together, there's going to be problems, and how to sort those out. Sometimes we just wish when we're all in the midst of it and people are kind of on two sides of an issue, and who's going to walk into the middle and help us, right? So if you're in an Episcopal church, you get Steve on the phone, get him, see if you can get him out here. And so you've done that. Tell us about some of the experiences you've had with congregations. Give us a peek at the magic where you walk into these problems and you have a gift. Tell us about that gift.
Yeah, okay. So I think my gift in education, ministry, and psychotherapy are all pretty similar. I believe that one of the core issues of all human beings, no matter where they are, is we like to be heard and we like to be understood. And my belief is that when I meet with people for psychotherapy, they're not feeling that, and it's my job to help them feel that. And if it's in a relationship, because I'm a marriage therapist, to help the couple understand that they need to understand and listen and validate each other. In churches, one of the big problems that I've dealt with, I've worked with 9 different churches in my career around these kind of issues, is they didn't feel either the pastor did not listen or get it or collaborate with them, or they didn't feel heard and understood. I believe most people come to church, at least at some level, to be heard and understood by God and through God by other people. And that goes because, like you said, we're all human beings. That goes off the tracks. And when it goes off the tracks, things can get political. People can leave the church. There's lots of tension. And so I come in to try and rebuild that, and with God's help to heal some of those wounds and to restore a sense of vision and purpose on why we are all there.
Now, we were talking earlier, and your gift is to assess quickly.
I process information really fast. I take in information fast, and I process it probably too fast sometimes. But yes, so I come into a church or a school or whatever, and I look pretty quickly at where I think the core issues are. And I think if you talk to people at St. Barnabas or anybody, they will tell you I tend to be pretty blunt and upfront with it. I don't try and hide things.
No.
And then we just figure out what the issues are and what we're going to do to go after them. I am overall, I don't know if it's a gift or a curse, but I have a lot of energy. And I'm pretty efficient at what I do, so I can get a lot done in a fairly short period of time. And I'm also a phenomenally huge optimist. I go after the strength in people and organizations. I've never met a human being who does not have some strengths. A lot of people don't believe in themselves. A lot of churches don't believe in themselves. And part of my work is to help them believe in themselves as individuals and as a parish. So again, I can go in, I think, pretty quickly and find out what those core issues are, as is true in marriages, for example. More often than not, people come to see me and they say it's money or it's sex or something like that. Those are never the issues. The issues are what create those issues. So I like to get at the underlying issues, and the same is true in churches. They'll talk about this person or that person or whatever, and that's not there's something underlying that. So I like to get at those and try and heal those issues.
I had this image of you coming in and meeting with folks, and you're kind of like Sherlock Holmes. The thread on the coat, the stain on the finger, the whatever it is about this, you're just picking up cues, bam, 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 you're putting it together.
There's some of that, yeah.
And then these underlying issues, I think you talked about one of them, and that is people need to be heard.
Yes.
Are there some other underlying issues? Is that the main one? Or what else?
I believe that's sort of a root issue, because you can, at least I believe that if you truly feel you are heard, you don't have to have everybody agree with you. There are people who it's my way or the highway, but that's not most people, certainly not in the church. But they want to at least have an idea that leadership and the community gets them. May disagree with them, and that's okay. So I think that's a really, really big one. Collaboration is another huge issue in most churches, especially ones that are not doing well. The Episcopal Church is set up framework-wise that it is collaborative. So legalistically, in the Episcopal Church, and I think a lot of churches are like this, the power lies with the congregation and not the pastor. Some churches it's the pastor, but most it's collaborative. And when that collaboration is not there, things happen because people want to feel empowered. And when priests take on or pastors take on all the power, it doesn't work well, in part because pastors don't last forever. They move on somewhere else, and that group is still stuck there. So I believe in empowering the congregation. I make virtually zero decisions on my own. At any church I've served, I always go to the community and say, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? And if there's a resounding no, I don't do it, because it's not my church. It's not my school. It's not, the client that comes in for psychotherapy, it's not my marriage. It's theirs. They need ownership. So a huge part of it is giving them the feeling and empowering them that they own whatever it is.
In both these underlying issues, collaboration and being heard, the word mattering comes up to me. Did it matter I was at church today? Did it even matter?
Right.
Was I heard? Do I feel empowered to do some good in my community? Because that's what we're hunger for,
Yeah.
is to matter in a good way. And if that's getting blocked and our talents aren't being recognized, and I'm not able to collaborate with someone else that complements me, then I'm lost. And I go home upset.
Yes, I agree.
And if that was my community where I expected to get that mattering, man, I'm really upset.
Yes, yeah, as you should be.
Yeah.
And I believe certainly in the church that should be happening. Everybody should matter for everybody. I don't see me as the top down, but everybody should matter to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's a problem when they don't. And it pains me. We had a parishioner at this church, and I own this one, who was not in church for a while. And then for some reason, she kind of fell through the cracks. And then I found out about it and was very apologetic and have tried to take steps to remedy that. But she mattered. It matters. It made me feel truly, deeply bad that happened. It just shouldn't happen. So.
Well, coming in from the outside, there's so much you don't know. And there's so much history that it's hard to gather that up. And people that aren't showing up and yet are on just outside the circle where you're able to see,
Yes.
that's a really vulnerable position for you to be responsible for so much. So I can see why, oops, I just didn't, Sherlock missed that clue. And now he's got
I miss him. I'm far from perfect.
Yeah.
Far from perfect. And we're trying to put in things as a community to not allow that to
Yeah.
happen. Hopefully we're getting better and that won't happen again. But yeah.
Governance model. Do you come in and part of this unsettlement between the pastor and the congregation is maybe because they don't have a clear idea of their roles with each other. Have you got a document that'll help us figure that out?
Well, in the Episcopal Church, we call it the canons of the church.
Okay.
It's our legal document. It's been around for a couple hundred years. And it changes. It morphs a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the document pretty clearly states what I've been saying, is that the people of the church are the power of the church. The only area in the Episcopal Church that the priest has ultimate say is in worship. So in the midst of worship, I can say, sorry, we're not doing that, we're doing this. But again, if you come into a church and you say we're doing it my way and everybody hates it, you're not going to have a church. They're all going to leave.
Yeah.
So that's just insanity to me. To me, I'm leading them in worship, and it needs to be meaningful to the parish. So I try to create as best I can. And yes, there's no, in the Episcopal Church anywhere, there's no style of worship that fits everybody's needs all the time. So we rotate primarily between sort of a modern style and a little bit older style. And we go back and forth generally. If I was going to be here longer, I would probably introduce a little bit of even more contemporary language and things like that now and then. But if you do that solely, there's going to be people who were raised in the traditional church who aren't going to be there. I don't believe that's right to get rid of those folks who helped build the church, some of them. So,
Well, I imagine there's some people who would like to see more of you, and even after we talk for a little longer. So when are services at St. Barnabas?
Sunday morning at 9:30. Right now is another thing that we did about not quite a year ago, is we used to have a 9 o'clock and a 10:30, and then for a lot of reasons we decided to combine them, and it just worked out really well. It's a larger number of people. It's getting those two different groups together
Yeah.
to interact. It's all been good. So
9:30 Sunday morning, St. Barnabas on 2nd. That driveway that it's easy to miss.
yes,
Right there after the dip.
helped into the dip.
And of course, a lot of people know that as a soup kitchen.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing that they do there. How many days a week now?
We're at 5 days a week. We just added 5 days a week. Been going 28 years.
Yeah.
We're now servicing, this year we will probably hit around 36,000 meals.
This year,
This year, yeah.
36,000.
Yeah, it was 32 last year, and then we added
A
a day. In April, we only had 3 days where we served less than 100 people.
Now, I know a lot of people watching either have volunteered there or know someone's volunteered
Yeah.
there. I've done that. It's a beautiful thing to
It
see
is.
how it works.
It is. And what's important, I think, seeing as I have the pulpit here, is because I think a lot of people think it's just for the homeless, and it's not. We do not ask anybody any questions, and assuredly there are some homeless there, but there are also some lonely people, some people with very limited income, some people who just like to get out and socialize. I mean, it's a wide range of people, and they are, by and large, wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah.
And yes, some people come there who have psychiatric issues. That's part of our world right now. Robin, who's the operations manager and the head cook and chef there, the leader of the band, is a remarkable human being.
Compassionate,
That's unbelievable.
open-hearted,
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
welcoming. The soup kitchen, it's a great thing. Now, it just run well. That wasn't something you were brought in to address.
No, it was going.
That was going good. It's getting stronger.
Yeah.
And a great opportunity for people to
Yeah.
serve. Well, we've got to move on. Tell us about the fact that you've been a principal at some schools. You started. Well, I don't know. You were Catlin Gable. You were the principal there.
was the principal, the head of the high school is what
Head
they
of the
call
high
it.
school.
Yeah.
What did you bring to that? You're a priest, you're a psychotherapist, you had to go get some accreditation again, so I won't even ask you about your schooling because that would take the rest of the show. So you're at Catlin Gable, why?
So I was brought in there because they had some issues in the high school, for lack of a better term. They were a bit entrenched with their curriculum and how they did things. So I was brought in to kind of shake things up a bit,
Wow.
which I think I did.
What years were you there?
95 to 98. Yeah, so it was a good time. It's a great school, unbelievable people. Some, I think, significant changes were made. One of the things that happened while I was there, and again, I don't take full credit. I'll take credit for allowing them and helping them foster them, but not for making them happen. But they started while I was there mandating a number of community service hours for all high school students, which led to all kinds of pretty remarkable things because of the connections the Catlin community has.
So that kind of shook things up. It gave people a wider view of the world.
Yeah.
And got connected with the community and not so insular.
Right.
And so that was one way you
Yeah.
shook it up.
Yeah. And curriculum-wise, it's not like I said, here's the curriculum you're going to do, but I would go to a department and I would say, here's some things that we need to look at.
Yeah.
And they were very receptive of that and made some significant changes. In the English department that I taught in was one of the departments that happened. So
You've taught English, you've taught science, you've taught history. Tell me if I'm wrong. You've taught the physical education, a tennis coach.
Dennis was a drama coach, choir director.
I saw on the website you have a guitar. You play the
I
guitar.
play guitar and piano. Yeah.
And piano. All right. And then to Howard. Tell us about Howard. It's in Salem?
Howard Street, the Howard Street Charter School.
Okay.
I was there from 2000 to 2003, 3 years there.
And they had some amazing statistics while you were there.
They did. It was during those 2 out of the 3 of those years, outside of magnet schools in the state, it was the #1 middle school on state assessment testing. And we were also either the highest or one of the highest with IEP, which is students with some kind of disability. They're on a special
Individual education plan.
Yeah. The average, I believe, in the state is around 13%, and we had 24%.
And still these high.
And still did that, yeah. So we did some pretty remarkable things, and part of that was we just didn't accept the reality that they were deficient. We just said, you've been sort of put in this pigeonhole of IEP, and we're not buying it. So let's figure our way out and figure out how to help you be fully who you're meant to be. And we were pretty darn successful.
Part of what you come in with is you rain optimism.
I do. Huge. Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
How does that express itself? Your optimism.
Well, a lot of energy and a lot of smiles. That's one.
Yeah.
I think complimenting and appreciating people a lot, constantly. And if you went to my church and said, what are Steve's favorite sort of catchlines or phrases? One of probably my all-time favorite is "get over it," because I believe a lot of people have things they got to get over.
Let it go.
And let it go. Get over it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I say that to educators. I say it to people at the hospital where I currently work as a psychotherapist. I say it to churches. I say it in sermons a lot. There's a lot of things we just need to let go and get over. So that seems to, number one, it brings a chuckle to their face, but inside I know it hits home as well for all of us, because I happen to believe all of us have something we need to get over.
Psychotherapist. Let's go to, I see this book, Addiction and Recovery, Psychotherapy here. Voice of the Soul, I'm going to call this, tell me if you think it's a good, fair characterization, Psychotherapy for the Soul.
Yes. Yep. Good way to look at it.
You've got 5 areas in this Voice of the Soul. Tell us about those 5 areas.
So I believe our soul has 5 unique characteristics that can be seen in people who don't believe in the soul as well. I just think it's different how you view them. So they have purpose, Purpose is an unbelievably core concept in the human brain and in our psychology, how we're made up. A lot of people are losing a sense of purpose. They should find it. Meaning, we got to figure out where our meaning in life comes from, and part of it comes from purpose in life. Meaning is what gives us hope. If you have a meaningless life, you're not going to have a lot of hope. And if you have a richly meaningful life, you're going to have a lot of hope. So it's pretty important, and hope is critical. So meaning is another aspect of it. Self-image, how we see ourselves. My belief is our culture is rampant with shame, the believing of not being worthy of being good, whole, whatever. That's a tragedy, but I believe it's part of our soul as well. So let's see, what do we got? We got purpose, meaning, self-image, and creativity. I believe that we are all called, our brains want to be creative. And creative doesn't mean writing, dancing, singing. It can mean all kinds of things. You can be a creative bank clerk. There's lots of ways to do it. We close ourselves in. And the final one are connections, because relationships are critical. We all know that people who isolate and don't connect with other human beings do not do well.
So these 5 things, if the soul is eternal, it's important, you want to pay attention to it. These are 5 ways to access what am I doing about this eternal part of me? How am I developing it?
Yes. Yep.
So that's...
Yeah, and I would say, as you pointed out before the show started, even for those who may not believe in a soul, those are 5 really important segments of life, and people should ask themselves, what's my purpose? Where do I get meaning? How do I see myself? What's my self-image?
Connections?
How am I connected, and where's my creativity showing up?
Yeah.
They're all really important to the human brain, our neurobiology.
Let's go, before we go to the addiction and recovery, let's have some fun here with your evangelical murder mystery, right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
The title is?
Alchemical Assistance.
Alchemical Assistance. Can you give us
So
give us a teaser on this baby?
So alchemy has been around for thousands of years. It is most known culturally as people who try and turn dirt into gold, or turn anything into gold.
Lead into gold.
Lead into gold.
Okay.
And there's a process through which alchemists, those kind, physical alchemists, work. But alchemy, the bigger picture of alchemy, is it is a spiritual transformation. What most alchemists historically are after is, how do I turn this mud, this lead, into perfection? In Christianity, we talk about being Christ-like, because we believe that Jesus was pretty darn near perfect, if not perfect. So how do I become Christ-like? And the same processes in alchemy, in physical alchemy, apply. So they talk about heat, and the Bible talks about the refiner's fire. And all of us have felt the pressure and the heat, and that brings about change sometimes. So there's all these stages of the alchemical process. The book is about a gentleman who is really close to literally developing the physical philosopher's stone, so that whatever he does, he can turn to gold. But he's missing a couple of pieces. And he goes to a woman who has discovered that, and he murders her.
Oh, no.
To try and get the secrets. The priest, one of his gifts is that the Spirit leads him to solve crimes. Doesn't actually say who it is, he just leads him by his senses. So he's walking down the street, and he smells death in this house, and he finds this woman.
Yeah.
And then he just starts going along and tracking this person down. And there's it goes chapter by chapter. One chapter is written by the protagonist, and then the next chapter by the antagonist, and they go back and forth throughout the whole book, how they're working against each other and trying to resolve this. And so it's kind of fun. And there's a lot of alchemy and transformation imagery, a lot of Jesus in the midst of it.
And Jungian psychology.
And it's Jungian, Carl Jung, very famous psychiatrist, his philosophy came primarily out of a giant study of alchemy. 3 of his volumes of his collected works are on alchemy. So,
okay. So, murder mystery, fun, but also sounds like it's got a soul to it.
It does.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I don't think you can get through that book without having your theology and your practical spirituality challenged and get some ideas about what to do. So,
all right, fun. Now, addiction and recovery, you've got these underlying issues of meaning and collaboration and things that are missing. If you don't have those, lead to addiction.
Certainly can.
Okay.
No, they lead to something bad. If you don't have these underlying things in your life, something bad is going to happen. And addiction is one of those bad things.
So you've listed out in here some of those basic needs. And tell us about that.
So what I believe the human brain needs, and none of this is rocket science. I just believe I'm the first person to put all these together in one place. So we know what the human brain needs to function well. And when you start not doing these things, bad things happen. The fewer of these things and the least often you do them, the worse things get. So the 8 things, they call them the big 8, are sleep. The human body needs to be at its best 6 hours straight and 7 to 9 hours total. It's during sleep that the repair work of the damage we do to our brain takes place. If you're not sleeping, there is no repair work. You're not going to get better. So sleep's really important. It's not a surprise that addicts and mentally ill people don't sleep well consistently. That's just the way it is. So sleep, exercise, we recommend 20 minutes a day. Exercise is what pours oxygen into an oxygen-starved brain. Mentally ill people and addicts take in less oxygen with each breath than do people who don't have those
Or people with high anxiety.
issues. Yes. Yeah.
That leads to some of these other things.
So exercise is important. Nutrition, what you put in your mouth is what your brain's running on. So think about what you're putting into your mouth. If you want your brain running on donuts and coffee and other stuff, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Fun. The human brain is wired to have fun. And a lot of people, especially addicts, don't have fun without using. That's because the part of their brain that creates primarily dopamine and serotonin have shut down. So they literally cannot have fun. So they're dependent on a chemical for fun. They need to get back and learn how to have fun and get the dopamine machine woken back up. Connections, we were talking about that and the other ones as well. The human brain is wired to be connected to other human beings.
Collaborate was a word you used
Yes.
in the congregation.
Yeah. So, and the more the better. Doesn't mean you can't spend time alone, but too much time alone is a disaster, especially in addiction and mental illness. Let's see, connection, purpose. We already talked about purpose. Critical. Got to have purpose because it is what brings meaning and what brings hope. Spirituality. I believe that you can be sober and stable without spirituality, but for those who have it of any kind, I don't care what kind of spirituality it is, it's one of the biggest resources they have. And people who have had it in their lives tend to lose it by the end. And then the final one is unmet needs. All human beings have needs, and when we start not taking care of our basic human needs, the need to belong, the need to be understood, the need to be loved, all of those things, things go south pretty quickly. And if you don't get those needs met, once you understand what they are, you're going to go south again.
And going through this list, you talk to addicts and you say, okay, are there things in your life that are on this list that you're missing? And they go, oh yeah, right there. And that's a place to start.
Most of them list over half of those things. Some say, there's not a need on here I have. It is met.
Ouch.
That's what addiction does. Over time, it takes more and more. Because addiction, your addictive brain knows that the needier you are, the more you will need the chemical to avoid and be in denial around all those needs.
Steve, you're a dynamic individual. These are things that came out of you because they just had to. You put them in. What's up with you right now? What's heavy on your mind? Where's your creativity? Where's your concerns? Where do you feel like you have an answer? What's up for you right now?
Yeah.
Just in the next few seconds.
Thank you.
Sure. Plenty of time. 10
Another
seconds.
half-hour topic, and I've
That's
got a
right.
few seconds. So probably more, in some ways, more of the same. I'm always trying to find ways to get people to be more spiritual in their lives than they are, to seek that journey, as well as addiction. Nobody's figured addiction out yet. Trillions of dollars and God knows how many hours have been put in trying to figure this out. nobody has. I think there's some answers there. People will do these things. So those are certainly on the plate. And shame. I just think we have more and more shame in our culture. Brene Brown, Dr. Brene Brown is probably the world authority right now on shame, and I think she's amazing. I want to try and figure out how to connect spirituality and shame better, because I think spirituality is a great resource for combating shame in our world.
Sounds like your next book, or at least your next sermon.
Well, there's something in there.
All right.
There's something in there.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely.